Yo, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy Marcus. We're back with another video today. We talked about yesterday, the highs and lows about the game. We did win. We beat the Jaguars. It's a good victory for the Colts. Today, I got my guy Lucas with me. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm feeling good. The game was a bit ugly down the stretch, but a win's a win.
Yeah, that's right. We're here tonight. We're going to talk about what went wrong in that game. I went over it yesterday, the success of how the defense pretty much carried the load. Shout out to the special teams as well. But now that you're here with me, I want to get your thoughts about the Colts versus Jaguars. What went down in your eyes while you were watching the game? How did it go?
Well, after a really impressive start for the offensive line, they did not show up this game, unfortunately. This was a bad game for arguably the strongest unit of the Colts heading into the season, which, we've been chalking that up throughout the season as predominantly on the pass protection side, where there's been a lot of injuries and it's been slowing down a lot of us there. Eric Fisher did not have a good game. Quentin Nelson allowed 4 pressures, which was the most I've really seen from him in a single game, which is unfortunate. But Josh Allen continued to show that when healthy, he is a dominant force, lining up inside and outside with stunts and twists all around. He was having a game for the Jaguars, especially against Eric Fisher, but also getting his licks in against Quentin Nelson. Braden Smith did not have a great one as well. Just the entire unit was having some struggles, not just in the pass protection, though, but as the game went on, the Jaguars were doing a lot better against the run. And like Jonathan Taylor, as we saw in the first quarter, had a phenomenal first drive of the game, first 2 drives of the game, where he was just dominant and he had 93 yards in the first quarter alone. But despite our usual strength in off tackle runs, the Jaguars adjusted to that very well. They were bringing in some stack boxes. They were getting pressure on the outside and on the inside. They were very disciplined with their gaps. And unfortunately, Jonathan Taylor wasn't able to rip off anything crazy afterwards. So the Colts' reliance on the run game for the most part this game was actually their hindrance, despite what we've seen throughout the year.
Yeah, man. That's right, man. The run game was there at the beginning. I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I, from my perspective about the run game, is that we went away from it, kind of, sort of, because we started to get the ball, try to flow it through the passing game, and Carson Wentz, he didn't have the best game out there, but it wasn't working. So once we went away and they realized that the pass game wasn't working, we tried to get back to the run game, and they were already dialed in at that moment. And the Jaguars, they don't really get a lot of credit for their defense, especially the week before what they did with the Bills. I already knew they were going to come into this game with momentum. So I think most people should give the Jaguars a little bit of credit on how their defense really looks. I think their defense is pretty solid. I think their most problems is coming from out of that offense, even though we know Jamal Agnew pretty much could have shredded us if we wanted to, but Lawrence didn't have a good day either. So I think the offense is the biggest problem for the Jaguars, but their defense is pretty solid in my opinion. What are your thoughts about the Jaguars defense?
The Jaguars defense, their strength is definitely in the front 4, front 7, really. They can get pressure on you, especially with, of course, Josh Allen as the big star of it, but also Taven Bryant was having a really strong game in the inside. They have a few different pieces around there, so they can get after the quarterback pretty well. Against the run, they've been kind of inconsistent, but they've been getting a lot better in recent games. Their biggest weakness, though, is the secondary on defense. That's where they've been getting absolutely roasted. And unfortunately, Carson Wentz just wasn't able to take advantage of it consistently throughout the game. He did have a few really impressive plays, especially down the stretch. I mean, we can't talk about amazing plays of this game without talking about that amazing rollout that he had, hit as he was thrown, and got a perfect pass right to Michael Pittman on a great toe drag swag play for a very clutch conversion for a first down. So we were able to beat the Jaguars defense in spots, but just was not consistent enough because they were getting relentless pressure. And because of that, the secondary was kind of being covered up for the Jaguars.
Yeah, man, absolutely. That pass to Mike Pittman Jr. was amazing. It was a pretty good play. It's one of those plays that took a deep breath. We tried to figure out what was going to happen at the end, but it was a wide open bullet to the sidelines. It was pretty good, right on the money. We can even go plays before that to one to Ashton Doolin on the sideline, and then Jack Doyle. He was reliable on the big play as well. It's just one of those things where I mentioned Carson Wentz being a 50-50 player. It's like he's not perfect. He's going to make mistakes. He knows that. Coach Frank knows that. Coach fans know it at this point. But the fact that he goes out there every single play and try to give it his all is the only thing that really makes me feel like, all right, we can be okay with this guy. It's like he's not perfect. It's just, some plays we're like, oh, he should do a check down or he should just throw it out of bounds. Maybe sometimes when he's throwing with the left hand, he should take a sack. But he just goes out there and give it his all each and every play, man. But yeah, Carson Wentz's performance in this game wasn't the best, but I think he did just enough to get us over the hump. What is your thoughts? You think he could have been better this game?
Oh, absolutely. Anytime that you have a quarterback who throws 0 touchdowns in a game, you can always say that they could have been better in a game. But despite that, I'm not going to get too hung up on that because ultimately what's more concerning rather than that, though, of course, the red zone usage for him and his play in the red zone throughout the season has been very, very unfortunate. I mean, he can get the ball to drive down the field, but once it gets into the red zone, it seems like him and Frank Reich have really struggled this year in either dialing up plays or just flat out executing them. I mean, he's had some pretty bad misses in the red zone with just timing off it with his wide receivers. So it's been unfortunate for him. He's almost there. He almost is there in that area of the field. It's just a little bit of adjustments that I think could really make a big difference for this season. But ultimately for the game, though, Carson Wentz, he did not move the needle this game for the most part. He did take a few good checkdowns, but also he was rushed a few times on a lot of plays. The screen game did not work at all towards the end of the game. So that kind of took away one of his favorite kind of easy outlets to manufacture some yardage for the team. But like the pass rush was just so relentless at times with Josh Allen that because of that he was asked to do a lot of escapism and then have to try and throw from weird angles and from a lot of pressure around him. And unfortunately, that can be hit or miss for most quarterbacks, let alone Carson Wentz. So I put it more on the offense rather than on him, but there were some bad throws. There were some misreads. So it's not completely on the offense as well. It's a shared experience. There's blame to go around.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Because there was a few plays with Jonathan Taylor when we knew the run game wasn't there. He had some runs, but the flags just came back and killed the runs. The big runs that we needed, the flags were just – it was just breathtaking because the moments that we needed, those spurts, because of the drives was so flat, was one of those solid reasons. That was one of the main reasons the offense could not get it off is due to those penalties, those boneheaded penalties. Please let me know if you agree with that.
I agree. These penalties have been at very inopportune times for the Colts. Though the Colts are one of the least penalized teams in the NFL, it seems like a lot of the times when they do happen, it's when we have a very positive play getting just wiped out, especially on the ground. But correct me if I was wrong, but I believe that was the same officiating crew as the infamous Bears and Steelers game.
Yeah, that's the same crew.
I wonder, why was the officiating so bad? It's not like they have a track record of bad officiating. What?
Yeah, like officiating to sell the games. I don't know. Maybe they had a hit out on the Colts. Who knows? Because the Steelers, they're in the playoff contentions as well, and they gave them the W. And, hey, who knows? But we won. That's all that matters at the end of the day. But we do know that officiation crew is definitely on the suspect list. We're going to pin them right on the top.
I got my eye on you, Tony Correnti. I got my eye on you.
Anywho, before we get out of here, closing statement. Just a side note, I want to give a shout out to our future corners of the Indianapolis Colts that are just flat out studs. And I kind of knew this was going to happen when Xavier Rhodes went down. Isaiah Rodgers and Rock Ya-Sin are two complete dogs that can be the future of the Colts. And I'm going to be on the verse to say right now, when Rhodes come back, I don't want him starting. I would want to keep Rodgers and Rock Ya-Sin over Xavier Rhodes. And I think it'll probably be better if Rhodes guards someone that's, pretty maybe young, not younger, but, a little bit lower on the roster spot. So he can probably be better at containing, in my opinion. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree. Isaiah Rodgers should be starting over Xavier Rhodes right now. Rockison has been the most consistent boundary cornerback for this Colts team when he's been healthy. And of course, we all know Kenny Moore is going to get his. He deserves to play. He is one of the best corners in the game, especially in the slot, but not exclusively to there. But I agree. Both of them are definitely future Colts corners for right now. They have been very, very impressive. They keep this up for the season. It is going to be a very, very fun cornerback trio for the Colts right there for this season and long term. Unfortunately, though, they're not getting a whole lot of help over top. And that's what I think really cost us at times this game because we all saw that one giant run and Josh Jones could not keep up at all. There has been a lot of slam pieces on Sendejo already. He laid out a really big hit, but he has been very inconsistent in terms of run defense and pass. Odom is a special teams guy, and he's phenomenal in that. He's an all-pro even there. But
Yeah,
at
man.
safety, he's been hit or miss at times, and he does not have the suitable enough range to be a free safety to kind of help us out in coverage. So ultimately, I really like these corners, but the secondary still does need some work, especially depth-wise, especially at the back end.
Yeah, definitely can see Ballard digging into his bag in the draft to go get a safety. If anything, don't know if he's going to get a veteran out of free agency, but that we're going to hold that into the future. But we're going to get up out of here. Appreciate you for joining the show, Lucas. Shout out to you. You guys let us know your thoughts in the comment section of what went wrong in the game, even though we won. Also, shout out to Hurricane Dio with a game-saving fumble. What was your reaction when that happened?
Well, I had a tweet locked and loaded and ready. I had been waiting for this moment for either a sack or a turnover. And it was Hurricane Dio just made landfall, battened down the hatches with a absolutely phenomenal Photoshop, of course. I mean, impeccable. But yeah, so Dio, I was very, very excited to see him finally make a game-changing play like that. He's been a very consistent kind of pressure guy so far, but he hadn't really gotten those big plays yet. And him and Quiddy Pay definitely came up big. And also, of course, DeForest Buckner had a monster game as well. So overall, I'm very excited to see what these guys are going to be doing long term. They are phenomenal athletes, and it's going to be exciting to see what kind of potential they can reach.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. In due time, but let them know where they can find you before we get up out of here.
All right, everyone, you can follow me at Robbins Lucas on Twitter. You can also find me at thebluestable.com and catch up on a lot of great content that we have over there.
All right, that's Lucas. This is Marcus. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. And until next time, you've been Culture Shock.